I guess that is an important thing that I think needs to be considered with that video, is that, again, by no means morally justifying what happened, but I think just the 17-minute WikiLeaks clip is taking things a little bit out of context, and what was going on that day was that the troops on the ground were searching house to house, and the helicopters were assigned to keep watch over them. And so part of that is to eliminate any threat that comes up. That was, what we were trained with regularly in the military. And again, I would take so much of this just back to the training that we had. And one thing that I think about is one exercise. Some of my leaders would ask the younger soldiers what they would do if somebody were to pull a weapon in a marketplace full of unarmed civilians. And not only did your response have to be that you would return fire, even if you knew it was going to hurt innocent civilians, because you were trying to aim at the person with a weapon, the answer had to be yes, but it had to be an instantaneous yes. So again, these things are just hammered into you through military training. So that's, the background of what the people in the helicopter had in their minds, that they saw this as a threat. And actually looking at the video myself, based on my training, what I saw in the video of what the people on the ground were holding in their hands, whether or not it was a camera, but again, from my military training, I would have, been told that that was a militarily justifiable thing, and top sources have confirmed this. But again, if you watch the 40-minute video, they actually recovered an RPG shell. So I think there's evidence that there were weapons involved, and I think the conversation has to be that that the people in the helicopter and the people in the military were responding exactly as they had been trained. From there, we can have a much-needed conversation about what does this training really look like. And I think there have been people out there trying to warn people, myself included, trying to talk to people about just the things that the military trains people with, very psychological things on a day-to-day basis. And then also the conversation that if these things are militarily justified, we have to ask if they're morally justified. If we want things that the Secretary of Defense is saying this is acceptable.
Josh, on this issue of whether they're morally defensible, could you talk to us about your decision to become a conscientious objector and how that was received and why you made that decision?
I got to the point where, I was seeing things like this and realized that this is what the military wants me to do, and this is not something that I can do or that I want to do as a person based on my religious beliefs and based on who I want to be, that this is what the military is telling me is acceptable. And again, I think this video illustrates that, and me saying that this is wrong. And it got down to some very simple concepts of doing unto others, and I knew I wouldn't want other people doing similar things like this to me. And not only what's in the video, but just the day-to-day things of where we would go in people's houses and rip through their houses. I'm pretty sure most people in my country would be pretty upset by that. So I decided to leave the military as a conscientious objector. And actually, that process, a number of soldiers were supportive of me, and they would tell me things like, we disagree with the war too, but we don't think it's worth the effort to try and do anything about it. So I think that's a really important point to focus on with this conversation about the video, is that there are many soldiers who are struggling with what's going on there. I talked to a lot of them, and just about everybody I was with lost their idealism for why we were there. So they're struggling through these ideas, but then me speaking out about this, I've been getting criticism as a conscientious objector, being called a baby killer and white trash for enlisting in the military to begin with. So in terms of people who don't want this kind of thing to happen again, if the goal is to get these soldiers who are committing these acts to stop doing that, if they see me, who has stepped out, getting criticized by people who are saying war is not the right answer, then that's not going to make them any more likely to want to make that step either. So I think the important part of this conversation is how can we work together with those soldiers who are struggling through these things and try to work towards other alternatives and try and provide them an outlet to say this is wrong and I'm not going to do it anymore.
Josh Stieber, who gave the orders to shoot?
From what I see in the video, it wasn't as much permission. So the folks in the helicopter asked the leaders on the ground if they could shoot, but it wasn't more like, you're allowed to. It was more, do you have any guys in the area that we might hit if we open fire? So I think it was the people in the helicopter, saying, we want to shoot. We want to make sure we're not going to hit you, and the people on the ground said, yeah, you're clear to fire.
So who are those voices that you recognize that say, yes, you're clear to fire?
Different leaders of various rank in my company.
Do you know any of their names?
Yes, but I think one of the things with this is that, again, the temptation can be to pinpoint this all on a few individual soldiers, and if we make a huge deal about the individual soldiers and don't look at the larger military system where, again, we're hearing these things from the very beginning of basic training, then you might take your judgment out on a few individual soldiers.
Well, Josh, let me ask you.
At all.
Let me ask you this question: the soldier that was asking for permission to take these kids to the U.S. military hospital, who was denied permission, told to take them to an Iraqi hospital, which would probably not be as equipped. Do you know that soldier?
That one I'm not sure of.
The effect on these soldiers who saw the children.
The effect, I know, it definitely has taken a toll, and I know the soldier who carried that child, and he was very uncomfortable with it, and when he got back, like so many soldiers, was very troubled by it, and didn't. I think a number of soldiers don't see any outlet or don't see any option to want to talk about these things. And again, if me, who is taking this step and talking about it, is getting met with such harsh resistance, that's not going to encourage other soldiers to take a step. So this particular soldier, I know, has tried to solve his problems through alcohol, and unfortunately, that's what a lot of soldiers turn to when they get back is alcohol or possessions or just something to try and push these to the back of their mind rather than to try to address the system that put us in this situation and encouraged us to do these things.
Are these soldiers now, after the video was released by WikiLeaks, are these soldiers starting to talk and get together now to talk about what to do, as others are calling for a reinvestigation of this?
The attitude that I've gotten from the soldiers involved, who are my friends, who I was there with, is generally, not completely across the board, but is generally one of defensiveness, that they're hearing all this criticism and very strongly worded criticism. And again, I'm not morally justifying what happened in the video. What my point is that what these soldiers were doing was exactly as they had been trained to do. So here's all these people criticizing them, but they're saying that I'm doing what I was supposed to do for my country. And I guess as I've been thinking about it, not only is it in the military, but it's even in our general culture. I mean, thinking back to high school, I was taught things like, the atomic bomb wasn't morally wrong. It might have been strategically questionable, but this idea, even in history class, that at times it might be necessary to take civilian lives in order to accomplish your overall goal. So I think as a society, we need to look at these things that put people or put this mindset or put these ideas in people. And I think, again, this video is shocking, and we need to ask how can we take that shock from the video and turn it into something positive? So whether that looks like people shocked by this video talking to their school boards and demanding for peace education classes or something to fix this larger system rather than just point it on a few individuals.
Josh Deaver, we want to thank you for being with us, veteran of the company involved in the July 2007 shooting of the Iraqi civilians. The video released by WikiLeaks. You can go to our website, democracynow.org, to see various parts of it. Josh left the military as a conscientious objector last year and is a member of Iraq Veterans Against the War.